Okay, so I'm gonna record this quick before people come in, and I have a bunch more to send out for workouts today because in the next couple of days in the Northeast we have school starting up, which means a bunch of different things. The majority of what it means for me, because I work with coaches, athletes, parents, teachers, trainers, therapists, and students, is the fact that there is going to be a massive amount, an epidemic of communication failures. Poor communication combined with poor listening, creating poor outcomes and poor experiences. And it is going to cause drama. It's going to cause combustion. There's going to be fighting. There's going to be complete misrepresentation as to where somebody stands and where they want to be and how that interacts with other people. What am I talking about? So there's a bunch of different people that you can learn good communication skills from, but you have to practice it. Shawn Achor's got a bunch of good stuff out there. Jordan Harbinger's got a bunch of good stuff out there. John Butcher's got good stuff out there. Tony Robbins. You can go Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. There's some great lessons there. You can talk about the squeaky wheel and how Guy Winch is talking about how you can complain effectively. It all comes down to, do you have any self-esteem? And do you respect other people? And do you appreciate and value any interaction with them in your life? And are you grateful for the opportunities that come about through just being yourself and putting yourself out there, and what you expect from other people and what you expect from yourself? What goals do you have in life? Now the problem is, like, when you're heading into school, a lot of people don't know any of this stuff. They don't have a great background or bank of true understanding as to word meaning. So their vocabulary is limited. So what they can communicate is limited. It's not very precise. It's generalized. And unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is people say things and they mean one thing, but they say something else. And then on top of that, their body language is saying something completely different. And they're unaware of how all of these work together. They're also unaware of their spacing between them and another person, and what their history is with that person, and any common ground they have between that person or the group that they're talking to. And then the dynamic of the group, and also where the other person is coming from. They don't know what the vocabulary of the other person is, so they don't know their market, they don't know their audience, and they don't know how to engage with them. They don't know what the desired outcome is for that other person or what they hope to achieve. So unfortunately, it's kind of a crapshoot from the beginning. And then what happens is you put emotion in there, and confused emotion, especially since most of us aren't really aware of what we're feeling anyway, and a lot of it comes back to the first 7 years of our life and the programming we've established at that point, and we don't ask questions to move ourselves forward, but often to place blame or to make ourselves feel better, which is usually at the expense of another person sometimes. So, and one of the things that I like that Shawn Achor says is, when you give praise, do you give praise that says, like, wow, you really ran fast, or wow, you're the fastest one on the team? One is appraisal for the person. Another is appraisal for the person by putting another person or other persons down, right? Lifting someone up by pushing somebody down, as opposed to just lifting them up or helping them understand they're already up. You don't have to lift them themselves, they lifted themselves. So it's a ton of stuff right there, right? So when you're getting in school, for starters, start off knowing, before you put the person out there, before you release, the person into the wild, the animal into the wild, make sure that they understand who they are. Ask them who they are. What's, obviously, like, at a young age it's going to be difficult, but like, make sure that they understand they can work for something, and what their immediate impact is, or what their immediate experience is of a situation isn't necessarily reality, because there's another person involved. And so that their own reality, or their sense of what the reality is, isn't necessarily reality. It's just what they think in that moment. But a little bit of stepping back in perspective, or looking at it from the other person's shoes, or what you think the other person's wearing for shoes, is a whole different story, because you don't know what they're bringing to the table. So before you overreact to a situation, good or bad, make sure to understand you don't know everything there is to know here. And when you're feeling something bad, think, well, let me clarify first before we move forward. So if you know what your values, beliefs, and your principles are from where you come from, that's great. But the other person doesn't necessarily know theirs, or you don't know theirs. So it's understandable for us to be confused with our communication and to get upset with other people. Now the thing is, you don't want to do or say things that are difficult to take back because you don't understand where the person's coming from or what they intended by their interaction with you or their communication to you or to somebody else. So one of the worst things too is gossip and hearsay. If you feel like somebody else is attacking you or coming after you, then you need to make sure that you address that in person, not just like face to face, but face to face in private. You might want to have one other person there or two other people there so that they can see what's actually going on. But again, do they actually see what's going on? No, they see it from their own scope, from their own lens, from their own, prejudices. So, and that doesn't mean bad things. It's just where they're coming from, the things that they think that they know are true for them in their life. So they could see you guys interacting, and they could both have two different experiences, and they could be different than the experiences that you had and the other person. So just be aware of that. This sounds very complicated, so now I'm going to try to bring it down to the easiest level, and that is when you communicate with somebody else. If you value them or potentially value them in your life and the interaction in your life, if you respect yourself and you respect the other person or want to respect the other person, then when somebody says or does something that you feel might be mean, then like Guy Winch talks about in The Squeaky Wheel, he says complain effectively. Basically let them know, hey, listen, this is what I expect for this situation, and this didn't happen. I hope to have better interactions with you in the future. So here's what, I would like to do about that. Here's what I would like us to do about that. And then if the person's worth it, if the person has any dignity or any real self-esteem for themselves, they'll understand where you're coming from, especially if it's not an attacking way. They won't have to get defensive, and then you both can improve. Now, this can happen at a pretty young age, but when kids are really young, oftentimes their playing is through fighting, and it's once parents and older people get involved, a lot of times they place meaning on things that didn't necessarily have meaning. So for a young age, it's a little bit different. But once you're in middle school and high school, at that point, we need to get better at clear communication and understanding what our goals are as to outcomes from these communications. If there's no goal for a communication, then you probably shouldn't communicate at all. You just might want to smile, or honestly, just focus on what you're supposed to be focusing on and not get distracted, which is really the point. So if you're walking down the hallway and you see somebody else and you want to say hi to them, to let them know that you're there and that you see them, so to speak, it's like, okay, hi, how are you doing? Or just a hello, or if you don't know somebody, you want to introduce yourself so that you might have a relationship with them in the future. You might want to be friends. You say, hi, my name is blank, whatever, and then tell them whatever it is that you want to tell them about yourself to connect with them. That's what we're here for. We're pack animals. We're looking to connect. And when somebody looks like they're looking to disconnect you, it's because usually they're fearful that you're going to steal some of their value to a group, or that you might take their spot, or you might kind of do their thing that they do, that they're known for. So it's a little bit of fear of missing out potentially if you're brought into, the circle. Now, if you're already in the same circle and all of a sudden they're acting out in a particular way, it's, again, usually because they're fearing, either failing or feeling that they're going to lose something. And so as it relates to that, you just have to bring this to the table. Hey, listen, here's what I'm thinking in my head is going on. Is that what's going on? I feel like this is happening, and then that way it's like, I feel this way. I think this way. It doesn't mean, it's not a blanket statement like, this happened. This is the truth, deal with it. No, it's like, I feel this is happening. If that was happening, or if that's not happening, that's fine. Where do you stand? Give the person an opportunity to respond and let them know, hey, listen, I'm not looking to be at odds with you, but at the same time, I expect more from this in the future. I respect myself. I hope to respect you, and I hope you respect me. So I think we can work together to create a better outcome.